Hello everyone! Welcome to another episode of How To Farming Simulator with the FUI guy, Farming Under the Influence guy. To carry on the tradition that I started last episode, we will crack a tasty little beverage just to get things rolling. Mmm, yummy. Alright, today we are going to focus on rolling and weeds. So to do such a thing, we're going to have to say goodbye to our little truck here. Money is becoming a factor, and I'm not using any money cheats, so I'll show you how to sell a piece of equipment. When you go into your vehicle menu, under the owned items, you'll see there's a car, even though it's clearly a truck. It's worth $36,799, so if you scroll over to it and hit X, and it'll ask you every time just to make sure you don't get into something you don't want to do. And yes, we'd like to sell that truck. Whoop. Okay, that leaves us with $71,000. I don't know that it's going to be enough for what we're doing here, but we'll see. Now, that we're back at the shop here with these two tractors I left here for this purpose exactly, we will start with the rolling. So we'll quickly do a quick look here. Darn, no rollers for sale. That would have been nice. But if you scroll over to your tools or attachments menu and find yourself a nice little roller menu, there are better roller options in the in modifications. Without that, this is your two options. This one requires 160 horsepower, which, as I mentioned, you should always check. So if you go into your owned items, let's look at our big tractors. 190, 170, so either tractor can pull it. Mint. Back to rollers, we will buy the Dalbo Power Roll 1230 HD for 41,000 bucks. You can select wheel brand. I'm not going to play with that too much. So 41,000 bucks. She's ours. It does say it requires 160 horsepower, and this is only 170. This is 190. So I will, for safety's sake, go a little bigger here and use the Valtra. Oh, she's really working to get this thing moving and then not even using it. Alright. Trying to merge here, pal. Now, depending how realistic you want to be, you can, if you don't own the land, crop destruction will not affect other people's fields at all. It'll affect yours, so if you own it and you have crop destruction on, don't drive on it. If you don't own it and you want to cut time, you can just whiz right on through other people's fields with no issues at all. As you can see here, we have this field beautifully limed from our last episode. And this field is still waiting to be rolled. Also needs lime. I'm not going to worry about that at this stage. But it needs rolling, and there is weeder, meaning that there's weed growth. So, step one, unfold roller. You will find lower roller that it's a little difficult on some fields to see what you've rolled. This one seems to be showing up fairly obviously, which is great because it's annoying when you can't really tell where you have and haven't been. So even though this tractor is 190 horsepower and this only requires 160 horsepower, you can hear it's laboring. So that just adds to the fact when I said earlier in the previous episodes that you want to make sure you have a tractor that has enough power, because even this one has 30 extra horses and it's still working. So if you were to get yourself into a little bit of trouble, have yourself a 140 horsepower tractor, it might just give you some grief, that's all. Now on a field like this where it's mostly flat, you probably won't have any issues, except like at the end of this next row I'm about to do. It's uphill, so you'll probably slow down quite a bit. You can hear it in here. Pretty loud on this guy. Now, you can still see kind of where the rowing has started and ended, but it is difficult. So one option, if you put it in cruise control here and just get a nice straight line rolling, and you go to your map menu. Wow, now it shows that it needs lime because the needs rolling option is being taken care of. So if you do get yourself into a little bit of a, oh, where the heck was I, that kind of stuff, don't feel bad. It happens to us all. You can just look on the mini-map and realize where you may have or didn't miss, whatever the case may be. Now, this is it for rolling. There's really nothing to it. It's quite straightforward. I'll just show you here. Same with anything else. Once you've rolled it, now you can see on the bottom right corner needs, or field info, it doesn't say needs rolling. And if you go over to the place that you haven't touched, needs rolling. Another way just to keep track of things like that, should you need to. So, to not punish you all and force you to watch me roll this entire field, I will do a little time lapse for you, and I will see you when I'm done. Welcome back, everyone. For some reason, rolling is the thing I dislike most in this game. It just is time consuming, it's slow, and just not my favorite thing, plain and simple. Now, since this is strictly a how-to video and we are not continuing on with this farm after my little segments are done, I'm going to sell that roller because we're going to need the money for an implement to deal with weeds. Now, there's a few options for this. If you go into tools, you can find the sprayers or weeders. So with weeders, there's a few options. They're small, they're much more lightweight, they require less horsepower, and they're a little cheaper. You can only weed a field in the early stages of the crop being grown. You can't drive over it when it's about to be harvested and get the weeds. That doesn't work that way. The other option is a sprayer. Now, I think this is a little more common, at least where I'm from. People spray weeds instead of take a weeder to them. So what we're going to go through is the sprayer option. I didn't touch base on this with fertilizer, but if you look down in the information menu, this particular sprayer holds 1,200 liters, is a ton and a half, 24 meters. It also shows on the very far right of that a little leaf in a jug, so you can put fertilizer in here and use a sprayer to spray on fertilizer instead of using the spreader that we have. For this video, we're just going to spray with weeds, so that's enough of that. So we'll buy it. Looks like it should be plenty enough for what we need. 34 grand, no big deal. We'll just cheat and zip ourselves over to the shop here again. Now, same as with everything else, you need to have something in the piece of equipment for it to work. So for liquid, you go to pallets. Here we have liquid fertilizer, liquid herbicide, different types of other options like trees, and this is not stuff we're going to get into. Herbicide. 2,000 liters. I can't remember what the sprayer was. 3,000, I think. So we'll buy 2 of these. So the sprayer is not going to hold it all. Whatever. Actually, the sprayer barely holds anything at all. So we got lots of fertilizer kicking around here. One thing I forgot to mention in my very, very, very beginning intro, first, cruise control in the PlayStation anyways, if you look at the controls on the top left, if you hold L1 and hold R1 at the same time, it'll toggle cruise control. So you hit circle while holding L1 and R1 and it'll cruise control up to whatever speed you have it set at. You can see you can toggle it using your control stick so it can go down or full speed. I accidentally turned on the lights. I always keep it a full speed ahead because I need to go places and I need to go there now. We'll have ourselves a little beverage break here while we're going straight. Now, the only thing with this type of sprayer is you cannot spray weeds that aren't there. So for example, in our, oopsie, wrong menu, our nicely rolled field of canola here, it's in such an early growing stage that there is no weeds. So if we deselect all of these, you'll see this shows there's no weeds, so we can't do anything with it right now. So quickly what I'll do, we're gonna go to bed. I know it's only 12:17, but we're into the beer, we gotta go to bed. So when you have a house, if you walk up to this, you can go to sleep. It'll move you ahead a month, or a day, however you want to call it, but it'll be a month. You can see it's August right now. So when we go to sleep, you can pick whatever time. We'll wake up at 9. It'll go through a little snooze menu here. And now that we've went a month, you'll see that there is weeds that can be sprayed on that canola field. So we'll just rip on into that once I'm done. I'm really tired. So now you can see everything we own has weeds. The only one I'm concerned with is the one that actually has a crop on it. This one's going to get mulched and worked, so I don't care about the weeds. This one's cultivated, so we're going to seed it. When it gets seeded, the weeds will go away, and it'll restart once it's been a month. So we're only going to be concerned with this one here. Let's just rip on our grass here. Okay, so we'll unfold the sprayer. And you can clearly see the weeds with this crop. Some crops like soybeans, for example, I think it's soybeans, it's a little harder to tell where the weeds are and where they aren't. And at this stage too, like I said in the other episode, we're at 50% fertilized, so you do have to re-fertilize this, and it'll be obviously much harder to tell what you've done with all this crop in the way. It also says that the weeds are small, so you can still use a weeder. So that's how you can determine if you can and can't use a weeder. You'll also notice once we get rid of the weeds here, we will get a better yield bonus. There is a modification I'd look into it, the precision farming pack. And what it will do is you can add on a precision farming part of the pack to certain pieces of equipment, and it will allow you to only spray fertilizer or weeds where needed. Same thing with the fertilizer too. So anyways, to get going, we just turn on the sprayer. You'll see now we're eating through sprayer or herbicide, and you can very clearly see where we have and haven't been. Now, just to show you one quick thing here too, you can see the live weeds, and when you're up close and personal, you can actually see the ones we've just sprayed are dead. They are brown and dead. You can see our yield bonus is in the 60s here, and over here it'll drop down back to your 50s just because there's weeds involved. So, we'll continue spraying. You can also see where our tires were for when we rolled, because it kind of kills the weeds beforehand. Also, if you have plowed a field, so say you have periodic plowing on, or you chose to plow it, or whatever the case may be, no weeds will grow in that crop for your first crop anyways. So I wouldn't recommend plowing a field every time because it is super time consuming and just not worth it. But if you have to plow a field, you will not have to worry about weeds for that, or mulching for that matter, for that first crop after you've plowed the field. So as you can see, this would be the exact same thing if you were fertilizing this crop with this setup. You can see it's a little slower. The boom width isn't quite as large as that little back of pack sprayer, I call it, on the back of the tractor. So different ways of doing things. I always use the sprayers for weeds. I just always have. I never really enjoyed the weeders. But if you're starting out really small and you want to save money on herbicide and stuff, the weeder will be cheaper. For one, to buy, and for two, you don't have to keep refilling it with herbicide. So there are benefits to both, and that's just kind of an up to you thing. Okay, well, I'm not going to bore you with the continuing of this, so I will see you when I'm done. One little thing I kind of forgot to mention too. As you can see, here we go. Weeds are dead. Up in the top right corner shows you their stages, but they're dead currently, so that's great. If you're using a weeder and you didn't advance to this stage where the weeds haven't actually grown, when you're using the weeder, it's very hard to tell what you have and haven't done. So even if you're using a weeder, I personally recommend waiting till the weeds have grown, so it's much easier to see when you've gone over them, like this map shows. But you don't have to. That is something that you can fight through and just use the kind of walking around, or if you're lucky enough and you can actually see where you've been with the weeder, you can do that. Lots of guys do. I've seen videos on it. They claim that potentially you lose a little bit of yield if you let the weeds grow. I personally think if you let them grow to stage 1, it's not enough. I've never noticed a difference where it's like crazy affecting me. So I think you'd be okay with that. Now, another thing I should mention, we have crop destruction on, and I know I mentioned this earlier, but we have wide tires. So you're allowed to spray weeds or trample all over your crops for, I'm not 100% sure if it's 2 or 3 stages, I want to say, of crop. And after that, you would destroy it. So you definitely want to make sure you do your weeding or spraying fairly early on into the game, or into your crop growth, just because you don't want to risk ruining something. All right, that was all I had for this episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. It was episode 2 of our more efficient filming, recording method. So yeah, let me know if you like it. Next episode, we'll get on to different types of balers and forage wagons. And yeah, I'm the FER guy signing off. Thank you very much. Have a good one. Take care.